What is up everyone, Baird here bringing you guys my final video for the Gears of War Bloodlines novel. I know it's been a long time coming here, it's been forever for me to make a video on this. I've been kind of slacking on this, to be 100% honest with you, with just life and everything, but I finally want to end the novel here for you guys, finally end the story. And eventually when I have more time, I would love to do this type of style when it comes to talking about the novels for the other books in the future. But let's just throw that on the back burner for now, but just want to let you know that's something I do have in mind eventually. But anyways, let's go ahead and start here with the Gears of War Bloodlines final part of the novel here. So the very next thing we see is the flock attacking everybody. Cole is still inside the mech suit, shooting what he can with its giant chain gun. But there's so many of them, hundreds of them, and they're going super fast. So fast that it's making it almost impossible for Cole to hit them, regardless of how strong he is. "Sit still, you little bastards," Cole said as he fired at them ferociously. Kait decided to make her way back to the broken condor and take cover as they were approaching her. She dived directly into the condor, and as she was doing so, Dell actually appeared and said, "Hey, I finally got the flight recorder," which Kait said, "Get back inside now." They both go back inside the condor. Kait is on the rear end of the condor, while Dell is inside the front end while he was taking out the flight recorder. As Kait runs through and passes several DBs that are hanging from the ceiling, they jangle around almost like mischievous wind chimes. She takes cover behind them as the leeches pour through the back part of the condor. They surround her, and she uses her lancer to shoot at them, but she runs out of ammo, and she feels like she might be reaching the end of her life because they are going to tear her apart shortly. But they actually ignore her, and they start attaching themselves to the hanging DBs. Kait fears and realizes what this means, that this will most likely cause several rejects to be born right in front of her. She tells Dell, "We need to leave right now," and they both evacuate the condor, running straight to the Minotaur trucks so they can escape. But one of them is coming directly at them. It's actually Lovings driving it. He swerves around them at the last second, which almost hits Dell. Kait helps him up, and Dell screams, "What the hell, man?" At that moment, they realize what Lovings was doing. He actually swerved around them on purpose and drove directly at the leeches as they were coming at them. He created a barrier with the truck, protecting them. The leeches plowed straight into the truck, trying to attach themselves or trying to get inside of it, but the truck was armored, and they weren't able to do anything. At this point, Kait tells Dell to make it to the other Minotaur so they can escape, implying that she's going to go somewhere else alone. Dell asks Kait, "What the hell are you going to do?" And she simply says, "I'm going to look for Marcus. I have to find him." At this point in time, they haven't seen him in a short while, so they are unsure what has happened to Marcus throughout this whole encounter. Kait started making her way back to the broken down condor near Marcus's last known position. Pasco, also driving a Minotaur, noticed that she needed help and actually picked her up. She rode on the side of the vehicle, holding on to the side mirror for support and holding her lancer in the other. They passed several corrupted DBs and she shot at them, hoping to hit something, but honestly they were moving so fast that she wasn't quite sure if she hit anything. Once they made it to the back of the broken down condor, she ran through the back end of it and saw that Marcus was actually pinned down by a reject and being choked. Marcus was using all the strength that he could to keep himself alive, trying to pull its hand away from his neck. Kait ran up behind it, pulling out its control unit and sweeping it from its feet, knocking it to the ground, helping Marcus out. Marcus said thanks, and Kait told him, "Don't thank me until we're out of here. We need to escape." Frustrated, Kait crushed the reject's head and was about to throw away its control unit. Marcus stops her and tells her that we need to keep that, as well as the flight recorder. Kait asked why, and Marcus simply stated because Baird can use this to study the corrupted DBs more, and that they can find out more information to combat the swarm. Kait listened and held on to the control unit. Luckily, their battle ended shortly after Cole was able to finally kill off the rest of the leeches. Everyone took a moment and decided on what they're going to do next. Dell actually made a joke about how the rejects were fighting so well, they were so formidable, such powerful enemies, and everyone just shook their head because he was making a joke about the fact that the DBs themselves, their combat data, was made off himself. They used Dell's combat strengths to help form the DBs. Cole, then making fun of Dell, said that, "Nah, the DBs are more erratic, crazy. Nuts! And before Dell could argue, Baird raised the comms and asked what was going on. Dell just explained everything that had happened on the battlefield, that they fought the DBs, that they fought the trackers, and the leeches, and everything that just transpired. Baird explained that they needed also the control unit from the rejects and also the control unit from the trackers that they had fought to find more information on how to study the swarm. Marcus gave Kait a look like, "See, I told you, I knew Baird was going to need it," and Kait simply stayed quiet. Baird lets everyone know that they're going to be sending reinforcements to their position and that they need to leave the Rend now and bring what they discovered back to him. Baird expresses his fear and concern about everyone, and he wants to make sure no one dies and gets back safely. Which makes Dell ask, "Wait a minute, does Jinn not know about this mission?" And Baird says, "Of course she doesn't know. Who the hell do you think you're talking to?" Which is pretty funny because of the fact that Baird always does things behind Jinn's back. He always does the right thing, does the missions that need to be done, even if Jinn doesn't want him to. They make their way back. They need to go up a road through a ravine. And as they're making their way, they can feel the heat in the area. The Rend is scorching. And visibility is practically zero when looking upwards due to the bright sun. As they're going through the area and trying to make their way, Kait thought that she saw something fly above them, and she asks anybody if they saw it. No one knows what she's talking about, and they think that it might just be something she might have thought she saw. Cole decides to take a closer look and climb up the ravine himself while inside the giant mech suit. He disappears for a while and they can't hear him on the comms. It's very staticky. Kait tries to raise Baird asking a question about the reinforcements, but Baird doesn't respond either. They realize that the static could be caused by the ravine itself while being inside the Rend, so she decides to just wait for a while. She's inside a broken down Minotaur that's being towed by Dell's Minotaur because they wanted to simply take it back. But unfortunately, it crashes into a rock as they make a sharp turn, and she gets out of it to try to check the broken down Minotaur to try to see what they can do next. They try to raise Cole on the comms, asking if they can use the Minotaur to pull it out of the sand. It's sunking into the deep sand after it crashed. But no response, of course. Out of nowhere, Cole falls from the sky, landing right on top of the Minotaur, crushing it. Turns out that when he was making his way up the side of the ravine, he was attacked by juvies. At this point, it became very awkward for everybody because they're going up a shallow and steep road while trying to make their way up the ravine. Cole is fighting these juvies on the road in front of them, stomping around inside the giant mech suit. Kait at one point literally landed on top of one of his feet and had to jump off of it and roll away. Another point, Dell had to actually slide underneath one of them before getting stomped on. Cole was ravishing around while fighting all the juvies, and everybody was panicking. Dell decided to take Kait with him inside of his Minotaur so they could try to make a way to escape. But as they looked for the Minotaur, they realized that it was gone. It was nowhere to be found, and they're running down the road trying to find out what to do next. The fighting gets worse, and they realize that Cole is not fighting just juvies, but actually another mech that's being piloted by a reject. They realize that they can't find the working Minotaur truck because Cole is actually using it as a club, smacking the other mech in the face with it. They realize that they're now on foot and have to make it to the third Minotaur that's being manned by Pasco and the Outsiders. As they're running down the road to try to make back up to it, they realize that Pasco has actually ordered the Outsiders to leave the vehicle itself and go on foot with weapons that they found in the back of that truck. Now they're all on foot and trying to fight to help. Cole says, "Screw this, I don't have time for this," and he actually uses his force of the mech to throw the other mech over the ravine, falling down the side of the cliff. It's making its way back up though, trying to have another fight with Cole. Cole says that he's actually going to hold it off while everyone escapes. As they're making their way trying to run through, another flock of leeches come out. And now it's up to Marcus, Pasco, the Outsiders, Kait, and Dell to fight the leeches off. As Marcus and Pasco are fighting the leeches, she realizes how good it feels to see Marcus and Pasco fighting together. Cog and Outsider should work together to defeat this new enemy and not be at arms with one another. She snapped out of this when the attack gets worse and they have to make their escape. They all squeeze together inside the final Minotaur, with Pasco and his men inside the Minotaur, Loving's at the wheel, and Marcus, Kait, and Dell hanging on the outside of the vehicle as it drives, with their lancers at the ready, shooting at anything that comes at them. They are trying to make their escape now. They passed Cole as Cole waited for the mech to make its way back up the mountain. He was ready to fight it one-on-one again. Kait and everyone was worried and they didn't want to leave Cole behind, but he wasn't listening. He wanted that fight. He wanted that one-on-one with the mech so everyone could have a good chance to escape. But as they were driving, the flock came back and started coming behind them. Everyone unloaded their weapons, and as they were driving, they noticed that up the road was actually another Minotaur that had crashed, with DBs spewing out the side of it. It turns out that the reinforcements that Baird had sent, that Jinn had sent, was actually simply a truck filled with DBs with someone at the wheel. Kait decides to jump off the side of their truck to go and help Cole. Marcus and Dell follow suit and follow with her. They go to the broken down Minotaur that crashed and opened up the driver's cab to find that it was actually Fawz driving the vehicle. He was the reinforcements with the DBs. He laid unconscious and with a broken nose was very dazed. Kait woken him up, but at the very moment he woke up, he freaked out and pointed his gun at Kait, thinking that she was an enemy. She was like, "Whoa, Fawz, it's me." And he put his gun down. They helped Fawz to his feet and realized that they really needed to go back and help Cole. He was losing the fight. The DB that was manning the mech made the mech fight very erratically, very crazily, to the extent that it was unpredictable and there was nothing that Cole could do. So they decided to fire up the crashed Minotaur and drive back, with Fawz manning a salvo. She tells everyone to ride on the side of the truck, but at a certain cue, everyone needs to jump off except Fawz. Fawz sits there and says, "Why? Why the hell do I have to stay?" And she goes, "Because you have the salvo. You'll know what to shoot when we get to it." He's confused but decides to listen to her. They drive, and as they drive down the road, they make their way back to Cole as he's fighting the mech. And once again, he is losing that fight. They drive between the enemy mech's legs, and as they pass through it, Fawz shoots the salvo rockets and destroys the DB that's manning the vehicle. This in turn destroys any chances of that enemy mech winning. Now that it's been defeated, it falls to the ground. Cole screams in the air saying, "That's what you get for taking on the coal train, bitch!" Which Fawz looks at Kait and says, "Should we tell him?" Which Kait replies, "Nah, let him have that one." At that moment, Kait felt a new sense of respect for Fawz, but then remembered his attitude about the people at Settlement 2, how he was so callous about their deaths, and almost seemed to act like they deserved it, and almost laughed at it. She decided to recede her respect for a moment there. The next thing we have is Kait actually waking up inside of Baird and Sam's house. She'd finally completed their mission, and she woken up to an amazing breakfast made by her host. She said she wanted to do something to repay them, but they refused as always and told her that it was fine, that they were glad to help her. Kait thanked them and said that she had to go to debriefing, but before she could, Baird actually says that JD has woken up from his coma and that no one else knows except him, and he wants Kait to be the first one to see him. Kait was surprised and happy and was a little worried about what their conversation would be. Once she gets there, she finds that JD is out of his bed and awake, and now sporting that stim sleeve that we saw in Gears 5, using it to relieve some of his pain, and scarred up everywhere. He was standing on his 2 feet again. Kait looks at him and they stare at each other in a silent awkwardness, because at this point, Kait was angry at him because of what she found out about what he did at Settlement 2. She was sitting there waiting for a response and finally said that she hates that JD is making her feel like the bad guy in the situation. JD said nothing, and she wanted an explanation, wanted to hear something from him, but he sat there almost emotionless and didn't give a response. All he said was, "Okay, say your piece," because he knew that she was mad at him. This infuriated her more, and all she said was that she was going to be gone for a while. She said, "We can talk when I get back. Maybe by then your conscience will have recovered as well as the rest of you." And she didn't wait for a response as she left. As she made her way into the elevator, she felt tears rolling down her eyes. She met with Salvador Pasco at the government house, ready for their meeting with Jinn. She was nervous because her main goal was to convince Salvador to keep the outsiders there, but in a way that Jinn would also let them be able to fight and to be able to defend the rest of New Ephyra. This was hard because of the fact that both outsiders and COG don't get along well, so they would need something to essentially unite them. When they made their way into the office, they saw that Hoffman and Marcus were actually already in there. They had discussed some type of agreement and were leaving as soon as Kait and Pasco made their way in. Kait felt really awkward at this point because Pasco was very stubborn. Minister Jinn simply asked him if she could say his name Salvador, which he responded, "Only Reina can call me Salvador or Sal, and I gave that inheritance to Kait. You can call me Pasco." There was a little bit of a weird awkward air while they discussed. It almost felt like they could break into an argument at any moment, but they eventually came to the agreement that the outsiders can stay and fight, but they needed someone that they could answer to, someone that they could always come to, and that it couldn't be Jinn, that it had to be somebody else. They both looked at Kait and asked if she wanted to be that person, which she surprisingly said no, that she had something else she needed to take care of, and that they decided that Cole would be the best person for this job. They were confused though, because Kait was the type of person that loved the outsiders. She was an outsider, so they had to know what she wanted to do, what had to take her attention away from being this person that would help the outsiders. She told them that her final mission that she wants to do is to convince Oscar to come to New Ephyra, to get everyone together, to be together at New Ephyra. Pasco laughed and said that Oscar would never be willing to go to the COG, to come back to New Ephyra. There's no way he would want to do that, and that the last people that went to try to convince him were driven off very violently, which once again he laughed at. Kait said she knew, and that she was the only person that could probably convince him to come back, and that was her main goal at this time. She crossed her arms and thanked very deeply as she came to this decision. When she did so, she felt two things press against her heart: her mother's amulet and her father's memorandum. Both were equally a part of her now. Later on, she met with Hoffman again to return the file, and she asked why he gave it to her to begin with. Hoffman, taking Gabe's file back, simply explained that he wanted her to learn something from her father, to see what he had gone through, and that sometimes decisions are hard to make. At this point, she started thinking about the decisions that JD had to make with Settlement 2, with the Hammer of Dawn, etc., and even thought back to when Gabe had convinced Wyatt to not kill the spy and to let the villagers take care of it themselves. She realized that in tough situations, decisions aren't always easy, and she thought on that for a little while. Hoffman stated that Gabe had in fact inspired him, and while he wasn't coming out of retirement, he wanted to contribute in his own way, and that the Swarm won't know what hit them. And that is the ending of the Gears of War Bloodlines novel. Just so you guys know, this novel takes place during the 4 months after JD got hurt during the Hammer of Dawn strike, and before we got to see the part where Kait met up with Oscar. So this is kind of a middle story, if that makes sense. If you guys like this video, please definitely hit that like button and subscribe and tell me what you guys think about the Gears of War Bloodlines novel. I know this has been a long time coming, guys. I'm so sorry that I've been putting this on hold for weeks on end, and I finally took the time to finally finish the novel and finish the video series here for it. If you guys enjoyed this series, I really appreciate you guys waiting so long to finally have me finish this for you guys. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see my most recent Gears of War video, hit that link on the left. If you want to see any of my other content, hit that link on the right. Thanks for watching, guys.